Hello and welcome to the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. Let's just dive right into this episode of Raw because it starts off with the Hurt Business draped in gold making their way to the arena. Lashley cutting a promo, the new champion, talking about all the crap he's had to deal with in 16 years, all the backstage politics, waiting for others to get a shot before him, for him to finally get his time, and now the almighty era has begun. And we open the show, the first match of the evening is a championship rematch from last week as Lashley defends the title against The Miz. How The Miz got this rematch, who really knows? You can't say the automatic rematch clause because they phased that shit out in December 2018 in the famous "You Are the Authority" speech. Before the match, The Miz and John Morrison are in the ring, and Miz on the mic with his own speech talking about all the stuff he's done for this company over the years and how he deserves to be the champion, basically recounting all the major plot points that happened on last week's Raw from his own perspective. He says, yeah, the count out was shady, but it's within my rights as a champion to do that. I outsmarted everybody. He says tonight there will be a new hashtag and new. Lashley with a brand new intro, complete with some superimposed lightning on the stage, some pyro. Looked a lot more impressive than the ending to Revolution on Sunday, am I right? So the match itself, pretty cut and dry. Miz with a couple of hope spots, but Lashley is just too strong, and he ultimately makes Miz tap out with a hurt lock. Again, how he got the rematch in general, who really knows? It's never explained, but during the match we keep getting to the presumptive number one contender, the presumptive champion, the presumptive Drew presumptive. They use that word a lot when they're describing him. Every time he's on screen, he's the presumptive number one contender. So after the match, Drew is being interviewed, Drew McPresumptive. He says, Bobby Lashley, you took me out and you had to beat The Miz to become champion. I beat Brock Lesnar since he's got no balls. As he's calling Bobby Lashley out, Sheamus jumps him and basically says it's not over between the two of them. He's tired of being in Drew's shadow. He's going to make Drew's life a living hell. Drew's very upset by this, and he demands from Adam Pearce a no DQ match for later on, which we will get. And one part that kind of made me raise my eyebrow in confusion was Samoa Joe, and that announcement was made like, oh, we're going to get a definitive winner in this match. I'm like, we had a definitive winner last week when they wrestled in a one-on-one contest. We get a scene with Braun Strowman, and R-Truth approaches him. He sounds like he wants Braun's help to get his baby back from Bad Bunny, but he's reading a list of apologies for things he's done. But Braun doesn't want to hear an apology from Truth. He wants to hear an apology from Shane McMahon. R-Truth with a timely Men in Black reference, and he goes off. So we have this segment now where Braun is in the ring and he demands an apology from Shane McMahon for what's been going on the last couple of weeks, including that weird tag title match with Adam Pearce last week. So Shane finally comes out, he gets right up to his face and says he apologizes, he goes to leave, and then he turns around, looks like he's going to say something, and then he doesn't. And then after the break, he's pressed on the issue of what he's going to say, and he says, we'll find out later. He just kind of mumbles to himself. That sure was a whole lot of something, but we'll come back to what actually goes down next, because that deserves its whole own segment. The first hour of this show starts off hot. Not only do we get the championship match to open things up, we then go to the no DQ match with Drew and Sheamus right away. And this one starts off in a big way. Drew attacking Sheamus before the bell rings. And it's another big boy battle, big boy bash. And these guys are just brutal with each other. Like, you can see the welts on their back after this match is all said and done with the weapons they use. Here they go to the outside. At one point, they throw Sheamus over the barricade, and the camera actually leans over to see him there. That shocked me, because I feel for months, anytime someone goes over the barricade, they might as well have just like clipped out of the video game. Like they've gone past the point where you can actually play, and they don't exist anymore. Because you don't see what happens there. You hardly see the floor of the Thunderdome past the barricade, but we see it not once, but twice in this match. The finish of this thing was actually pretty hilarious, where you get Drew and Sheamus, each with their own set of steel steps on their heads, and they run at each other, and they collide, and they just both like pass out. Like, Drew's launched over the barricade, we see him again, and Sheamus looks to be completely knocked out. To be fair, the way he took it looked pretty sick, so he looks to be totally out of it, and the match is, it's over. The match ends that way. So unlike what Samoa Joe promised, we did not get a definitive winner in this matchup here, but it was still pretty brutal, except for the disappointing finish. I thought the match itself was fine, and again, the toll they put their bodies through in this one, got to give them some respect for that. We meet the newest member of the broadcast team backstage, Kevin Patrick, who interviews AJ Styles. AJ just is relishing in the fact that Randy Orton is being tormented every week by Alexa Bliss and by proxy The Fiend. Randy Orton shows up, takes umbrage with his comments, and AJ says he's been kind of weak lately. Orton challenging him to a match later tonight to see how weak he really is, and AJ accepts. We then go to our next match is Xavier Woods takes on Shelton Benjamin. They announced that next week the New Day will challenge for the Raw Tag titles, so bit of a preview in singles form here. By the way, I popped big for the Mortal Kombat-inspired gear the New Day were wearing tonight. Kind of a shorter match here. Shelton's on the attack for most of this thing, but he talks a bit too much trash. Xavier with a surprise roll-up to win, which, boy, the surprise roll-up. You don't see that finish very often in WWE, do you? It gives me all the confidence in the world they're going to upset the champions next week, right? Riddle is being interviewed backstage. He's less interested about Retribution's numbers advantage than he is about where to park his scooter when he rides through the Thunderdome. Some of the New Day celebrating the win from minutes earlier. They walk through the curtain and they talk with Riddle and everything. Riddle has to go to his match, but he asks them to hold on to the scooter for him, and Kofi with the line saying, "Get over here," since he's wearing the Scorpion colors and everything. So Riddle goes out for his match against Slappy Jack of Retribution. Not much of a numbers advantage for Retribution here because it's just Slapjack and Mustafa Ali, so it's not as dire of a situation as recent weeks have seen. It's a pretty good match here. I mean, for a relative squash match, Slapjack still got a couple of good licks in, a couple of good hope spots, but yeah, Riddle wins pretty decisively with 2 final flashes, and then the Bro Derek to win. Mustafa Ali's beside himself here, just yelling more at Slapjack for failing again. Seeing more unhinged Mustafa during all this stuff as he's heading toward a title match with Riddle next week is interesting. It makes me wonder if this is going to be maybe now's the blow off where Retribution finally abandons him or something. But I feel that, like, you know, after a while now, at least he's been given some kind of direction in this feud with Riddle, and maybe all this anger toward his own guys is going to go somewhere. It turns out Shane McMahon has more to say to Braun. He has Adam Pearce summon Strowman to the ring so he can talk to him face to face, but Shane immediately leaves the ring and starts backing up while he's got the microphone here so he can be far away from Braun when he says what he has to say. What he has to say, though, I have no idea, because watching this, it sounds like he either forgot his lines or he had a sudden phantom concussion strike him in the middle of his promo, because he suddenly was breathing really heavily. He couldn't form a coherent thought for what felt like forever. It was like, get to the point. Did you forget your lines? What's going on here? Shane constantly repeating he would never use the word stupid to describe Braun. He thinks it's a dirty word, but he basically does all these things where it's like, oh, but people are saying you're stupid this and stupid that. He says, I would never call you stupid, Braun, which I guess the stutter thing, that's something Braun totally does. But anyway, yeah, Braun chases him out. Shane appears to speed off in a car. Braun's like, I missed him, and he goes to walk away. Shane pops back up and calls him stupid quietly and goes away. What in God's name is going on with the storyline? What in God's name was that promo that Shane had? Like, I feel it was almost too weird, too bizarre for that to be unintentional. That had to be something that threw a Hail Mary, like, hey, what if we completely just like flip this thing on its ear and have Shane act really erratic for no reason? It's something that would almost be by design, because I don't know what that was there. So wherever this is going, I don't know. This is not the Braun Strowman that we know and love, and it's barely the Shane McMahon we know and tolerate. Women's tag title match up next. At least the belts are being defended regularly now as Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler take on Lana and Naomi. But the champs aren't alone because Reginald, the sommelier, is with them. And we saw last week on SmackDown, Reggie was fired by Carmella. Nia swoops in to pick him up because she thinks he's cute. And she says as much here in this promo. Apparently, hanging out with the floating champs gives you inter-brand benefits. So Reggie is now a SmackDown and a Raw star. We'll be seeing him on NXT very soon, I bet you. So anyway, this match goes on. Reginald's at ringside for this one. Pretty short match. Naomi does a lot of the heavy lifting in this thing, but ultimately Reggie trips her and distracts her. That allows Lana to get powerbombed by Nia Jax for the champions to retain. I mean, I don't know how much more mileage that they can get out of Lana versus Nia Jax. They even replayed the clip from last month where Nia goes, oh, my hole. But it's the spot that like they showed and went viral, but like they barely try and they try and do as little as they can to reference it as possible since then. This seems to me this is all being done, Reggie being with the champions, to help kind of give them an advantage against Sasha and Bianca going into Fastlane for their tag title match. And I think him being with the champions gives him this extra dimension where maybe after Fastlane they can still be a thing, like the three of them, and then we can have something I complained about in the SmackDown review was how, like, why is Reginald like the central focus of this women's feud for the championship? Maybe he can glom onto the tag champs for a bit bit, and that can allow Sasha and Bianca after Fastlane to focus on their thing and keep it just to them. Randy Orton interviewed backstage. He's being told that others in the locker room are concerned about his well-being, which surprises him because no one's told that to him to his face. He talks about his match with AJ Styles, says his 3 most dangerous letters catchphrase at the end to wrap things up. And then elsewhere, we see Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, and suddenly I'm seeing double. 6 Charlottes, because Charlotte Flair then walks into the thing. So Mandy and Dana say that they want a shot at the Raw Women's Championship. You know, Asuka's hurt. We'll see where that goes. Then Charlotte's like, yeah, I want a shot too. And I guess you have 5 weeks to impress me before WrestleMania to see if you have what it takes to challenge her. And, you know, I mean, this could be just delaying the inevitable for like when Charlotte gets her one-on-one with Asuka, but it makes me wonder, like, what's going to happen if Asuka isn't ready to go? What if her teeth aren't healed? Or, what if they don't have the dentures fitted for her, the replacement teeth? And what if she's not able to go at WrestleMania? Makes you wonder what they're going to do with these ladies if, what's the contingency plan if Asuka's unavailable? Like, will they do the Women's Battle Royal like they did the last few years? Will there be some kind of #1 contendership thing? A multi-woman match, something that if Asuka's there but it takes minimal bumps, like to help take the pressure off her? A lot of different ways they could go with this right now. There does seem to be a bit of intrigue right now as it relates, in one sense at least. I mean, I'm not thrilled the idea of an Asuka-Charlotte match again at WrestleMania, so maybe something to deviate from that if Asuka is too hurt to compete, wouldn't be the worst thing. They replay a large portion of the opening match with Miz and Lashley from earlier, almost the entire Lashley intro as well. And then we go to our main event as Randy Orton takes on AJ Styles. Early on, Orton is not intimidated by Omos on the outside, slams AJ on the announce table like he does and just stares right at Omos while he's doing it too. But there is a distraction that allows AJ to recover. It's a good match here. I mean, these two have great chemistry. We've seen them wrestle a lot before, like on SmackDown and stuff. And, again, these two are just great workers, and them having a bad match seems like kind of an impossibility. There's a really cool initial blocking of the calf crusher that I've not seen before that Orton did that kind of delayed the calf crusher from being locked in. I thought that was kind of a cool little wrinkle. So anyway, Orton seems to have the match in hand when suddenly we get some eerie lighting and Alexa Bliss appears on the screen. She's got that pentagram, Jack in the Box again, but she whispers to it, not yet. And then she lights a match, blows it out. We get 3/4 of the Kane pyro on the ring post. You know what? Even the biggest companies have their pyro botches now and then, I guess. But that was what sets off more black goop coming out of Randy Orton. And AJ is pulled out of the ring by Omos earlier, but he jumps back in for the phenomenal forearm to hit Orton while he's in this compromised state, pins him and wins. And so AJ, he beats Randy Orton, and we see Alexa laughing and laughing while Orton looks to be kind of confused and worried and concerned as we fade to black. I mean, I will say the stuff with Randy Orton and Alexa is still the most interesting stuff, by far on Raw right now. There's some other things catching up to it, but Orton and Alexa and The Fiend, that's had a head start for a while, it feels. And, all signs seem to be leading. This could be a Firefly Funhouse match at Mania. We'll have to see. But, they're keeping this thing rolling along. How the curse is going to last or where it's going to end up. Will Randy Orton, will his black viscous goop turn into Bray Wyatt? There's so many things they could do with this. And, I don't want to, it's kind of like the mystery and intrigue for anything lately going on, with Revolution or with WandaVision, where it's the theories that I want to try and whip up in my head will probably not end up happening. So I just end up shutting that part of my brain down. No, let's just sit back and wait and see what happens. And I've been liking what this has been turning into, and hopefully the payoff to this will be worth the wait. My grade for this week's Raw is a D+. Kind of a disappointing one this week, except for a couple of bright spots. It was actually kind of a front-loaded episode of Raw. The first hour really hits you in the mouth right away with the Lashley-Miz match, as forgettable as it ultimately was. And then there was the Sheamus-Drew match, which was entertaining until the kind of disappointing finish. I don't know, it just felt like a lot of things felt kind of up in the air with this week. There's a lot of things where it's oh, this could go somewhere, but at the same time, I think it's a 50-50 shot where it's oh, this is going to be forgotten about 2 weeks. And the stuff with Shane and Braun, I don't know what they're doing, but that brings my enjoyment of the show to an ass-grinding halt the last few weeks they've been on TV together. Because again, I have no interest in seeing a Braun and Shane feud for WrestleMania, or any time of the year for that matter. So it's not my cup of tea. But what did you think of Raw this week, folks? Let me know in the comment section below. And since we're on the topic of WrestleMania stuff, they did announce on Raw tonight that tickets are going to be on sale a week from Tuesday. So I ask, Are any of you going to be buying tickets to WrestleMania? Like, I imagine most of it's going to be bought up by Floridians. You know, it's going to be, they're probably counting on a lot of local residents to go to the show. But how many people are going to buy tickets and go out to the shows in Tampa and stuff that weekend? It terrifies me. I'm not quite ready to do any kind of loop like that, especially Mania weekend, where even if there's not a pandemic, there's a good chance you're getting sick. So I'm not going to be there in Tampa this year. But what are you folks going to be doing? I want to hear your thoughts. What are your Mania weekend plans? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.